welcome everybody to another NPCs once-over. My name is Travis, and today we're looking at the new flight simulator from Microsoft on PC. This game dropped, I believe, at least at the time of this video, it dropped last week, and since then it has been nothing but a huge hit, and at least according to some news articles that have come out now, has become the new crisis for at least stress testing someone's computer. So yeah, currently right now we are sitting in the cockpit of a Cessna 172 Turbo, and we are currently flying over New York City. Let's go ahead and get some turns in here and go with this. Yeah, so I've only taken off from JFK about maybe 5 minutes ago or so before I actually started the recording. And yeah, we're just going to go ahead and take you around and talk a little bit about this game itself, which for me, I don't really talk about this one too much, but trying to get my private pilot's license is definitely a big bucket list item for myself. And so being able to play a flight simulator game, you know, especially one that is a little bit more modern than what we've been used to with, say, like, you know, the previous versions of Flight Simulator, is at least definitely a welcome addition. Not to say that the other flight simulators were bad. I mean, if they were, we wouldn't have had something like this in the first place. Anyway, enough about that. So Flight Simulator 2020 dropped this last week and is currently only on PC. They have not actually announced anything about it coming out for Xbox just yet, but I am a member of Xbox Game Pass, and so I was able to download the basic version of this for free, of course, as a part of my subscription onto my computer. This game comes in 3 different versions. Your basic version, and then you have 2 different versions above. I think there's like a deluxe edition and then like a premier edition or something for the names of them. In the basic version that I'm playing in right now that comes with Game Pass, you get a free, you get 20 planes, you get, I believe it's 10 or 15 highly detailed airports, which of course, JFK is definitely one of the detailed ones that you get in the base package. And then everything else, of course, is already included. If you want to go up to the higher versions, or at least the higher paid versions, then you'll end up unlocking, I believe it's about 5 additional planes per version, and then I think about 10 or 15 additional high quality airports. And so by high quality, is these are ones where the actual game designers have taken models of those airports and have actually put them here into the game itself, instead of just kind of being generic, you know, just copy and paste type buildings, which, you know, if you go back and look at the previous versions of Flight Simulator, there's a good chunk that kind of are. Where do I want to go? Okay, so I'm currently playing kind of in easy mode right now. You can't hear it because I turned down the volume, but air traffic control is kind of hitting me up really hard about flying around in this area. And the system's automatically responding for me, so I don't have to interact with anything specifically with air traffic control. So I've turned down the volume there, but right now I'm pretty sure they're probably yelling at me. But let's kind of talk about here what's going on in the plane itself anyway. So as you can kind of see here, I'm actually using not a controller. I'm not using a like an Xbox controller or anything. I'm not using keyboard mouse. I'm actually using a flight yoke and throttle control. It's a Logitech G Pro flight yoke and throttle control system. I picked it up for $170 on Amazon, and you can actually download configuration and support packs to actually map all of the buttons to what you need them to be to play not only this game but a couple other flight simulators too. So that's what I'm playing on right now. Anyway, yeah, let's take a look here inside the plane. I'll grab my mouse here, and you can actually see that as we move around. But every single one of these switches that we have on here, just like in any other flight sim, oh, sorry for the bouncing around there, is you can modify and mess with. So if I go here, like, say, into the alerts, I can actually see if there's any alerts coming in from ATC. I can see here exactly what the nearest airports are to me. We can actually see some adjustments here in references. And then there's also different maps and such that we can also kind of apply here too. Anyway, so that's just kind of on the screen, but again, everything else here is actually controllable too. And if I really wanted to, and I'm not going to right now, I could turn off the plane mid-flight if I wanted. But again, like I said, I'm not going to. I'm just going to trim a little bit here just to kind of get us on a level flight, because you can see we're kind of diving now. But in all glory of being a flight simulator game, every single one of these switches, or at least a large swath of them, are maneuverable. You can do anything here in this plane whatsoever that you want to. If you want to completely shut off the plane, like I said, I'm not going to, but you absolutely could. That's all taken care of over here. Let's see, where are we here over New York? So, okay, so JFK's back there. It looks like we're coming up towards Manhattan and the skyline on that side. All right, so what has changed between Flight Simulator 2020 and the previous version of Flight Simulator? So let's talk about this a little bit more. So not only are we looking, of course, at the higher quality graphics, since there has been a lot of time that's gone between the previous version of Flight Simulator and where we're at now, you're also talking about advancements in AI and a lot of things that could be integrated into the game as well too to offer a more realistic flying experience, such as weather. So right now, where we're flying around here in New York City, we're not only flying in the actual weather that's going on in there, you know, we got the actual temperature, the cloud cover you're seeing here as well too. All of this is in real time. So what we're seeing here in New York City is correct. Just this week, of course, with Hurricane Laura having passed down through the south, a lot of people are actually taking their planes and able to actually fly through the hurricane, you know, in something that you're not actually supposed to do with a real plane. But they were able to fly around that hurricane and check things out, something that no just regular private pilot generally does. So with that weather part, though, too, you know, that offers at least another level of complexity, especially if you're not playing in easy mode. You've got to take into account how to actually fly through said weather. If you're playing in anything that might deal with snow, you also have to deal with the actual icing effects, though, too, on a plane. So there's a lot of that to take into consideration. On top of the actual AI, when it comes to the weather part itself, though, too, let's take a look out here to the right. Take a look at the nice Manhattan skyline. In terms of the AI itself, not only do you have the weather, but you got air traffic control as well, which handles, of course, everything you normally hear if you were actually a pilot, setting your frequencies, making sure you're departing and landing in the right spot, passing you off from airport to airport, and so on. You also have AI that is also incorporated this, where it's actually pulling real air traffic control reports from across the world. So more likely than not, when you're flying around, you may actually end up encountering planes that are currently flying around in real time out in the world. And, you know, with where we're flying right now, of course, this is kind of a big no-no, you know, given 9/11 and, you know, some other safety things as well, though, too, but mostly 9/11. Generally, you wouldn't be flying around like this without some sort of special permit or some sort of special license. But here we are. This is one thing, of course, that offers such, too. Now, you got the air traffic control, you got the weather, you've got the live radar, though, too, or the live air traffic, but you also can do multiplayer in this, which is something I have yet to experience. But so far, everything I've heard has actually been pretty cool, being able to actually play. But there's no in-game chat, so you have to rely on things such as Discord or TeamSpeak or something like that to actually do it. Let's go ahead and switch the camera around here so you can see outside the plane, too. So, again, we're just flying pretty level. No issues here. We are losing some altitude, but we can turn the camera around here, and if we take a look at the New York skyline, you know, we got some points of interest here, you know, besides the Brooklyn Bridge. I can actually, I think, hit the button here. You know, that's getting us back over to the airport. But we can actually see over here, we can see One World Trade Center, the Freedom Tower, the Empire State Building and such is over this way as well, too. So a lot of landmarks that are uniquely mapped out here, just like they would be in New York City anyway, that you can fly by and check out. And, of course, Statue of Liberty. So maybe we'll go fly around there and buzz that. I chose to fly around in this plane here itself, the Cessna. I believe that, again, this is a Cessna 172. And just because it's slower, the jets themselves are actually a little terrifying to fly if you're not used to them. So I just chose this just more for the convenience and comfort. There are plenty of other planes, though. I believe you get about 3 or 4 different jets. And then out of the rest of it, I'm going to throttle back here a little bit. The rest of it are going to be prop engines. So like the Cessna here, there's a couple twin engine prop planes as well, though, too. Some of like the little puddle jumper type planes you'd actually see flying around in maybe like your smaller airports, like what we have here in our hometown. And again, going through those other versions unlocks additional vehicles. The only thing I'm actually sad about that we haven't seen yet here in any of... Oh, Statue of Liberty's back that way. Or is it right there? Maybe it's right there. Let's see. No, that's a dock. Okay. One of the things I'm actually disappointed that we haven't seen added into Flight Simulator, at least talked about yet, are helicopters. So helicopters, of course, at least allow the ability to fly in those short jaunts and, you know, be able to land in neighborhoods and such to go scope things out. One of the first things that people like to do here is to fly next to their house or over their house or something to go actually see what it looks like, how it rendered in game. Of course, it's just a massive blob of what they tried to make into a house. But if you had a helicopter, at least, you know, for these more, like, these cities that have much more detail, like New York City, of course, you got Chicago, Los Angeles, San Francisco here in the United States, then, you know, being able to go and check out some of those things would actually be pretty cool. But, alas, you were stuck with airplanes. Try to flip around here. There it is. Okay. So again, what we're doing, obviously, of course, you're not able to do in real life. So, you know, I'm surprised that the air traffic control would yell at us and scramble jets to come and shoot our asses down. But here we are. So we're just going to buzz the Statue of Liberty really quick. Scare the crap out of anybody who might be hanging out here. We're not going to do a ditch in the Hudson or anything like that either, so... All right, let's take a look. Let's see how detailed this looks, at least from this elevation here. Ooh, 500 feet. Let's level out. Yeah, it doesn't look so bad. Actually, that's modeled pretty good. I like the lighting effects on it. I wonder if anybody who's using a RTX graphics card might net from any benefit to ray tracing if they add anything in like that, which would be kind of cool. But honestly, like I was saying there at the beginning of this is, at least I think I said it, I've done a couple recordings of this, but a lot of people are kind of making this now the new crisis, at least in regards to benchmarking a computer, because Flight Simulator itself takes a lot of resources to play. I'm actually recording this to a separate computer, so I don't really chug along too much here, at least while playing Flight Sim and showing you guys around. So besides free play and you know, doing some of the multiplayer stuff though too, there actually are kind of like classes, I would say, in how to fly a plane, teaching you the basics of what each control looks like, and each gauge. Also talking to you about how, let's go and throttle up a little bit, talking to you about how to properly take off and land, giving you, you know, speeds and such too. Of course, you're learning in an older version of the Cessna where you don't have all these nice fancy digital screens and gauges and such, just more of your rudimentary gauges to get you up in the air. But you go through all those different classes there to learn exactly about how to fly a plane, and then kind of your final test is to actually do a full flight, which includes a pre-flight check where you go through a full checklist. You're actually flipping every switch that you need to in a plane to turn it on and get it ready to take off, and then taking off and landing, turning the plane off and getting it ready for putting it away. So that, in my mind, is actually pretty cool, because not only can you get away from at least just having to worry about doing these free flights, you also get the added bonus of at least learning how a plane really works. You know, instead just, you know, pushing the gas and pulling back on the yoke or the control and just going right up. On top of the actual training though too, you do get a couple other modes, and I'll go back to the menu to show you guys exactly what it looks like and what type of planes we have here too here in a second. I think I'll give a shot to landing at JFK here in a second if I can get the altitude back here again, which again I should be able to. One of the other things though too is that they've also put kind of challenges in here as well. Haven't really tried any of the challenges yet, but the challenges, at least the first one they've had up so far, again I don't know if it's changed, has been landing challenges. So the first series of landing challenges have been to land on some of the most dangerous runways in the world, such as, I don't actually know the names of some of these, but there's ones where it's like the runway actually, when you're coming in for a landing, actually meets the edge of an ocean. I'm sure you have probably seen pictures of like beaches, like that are right up against an active runway. You know, there's stuff like that. There are these airports that are actually in the mountains as well too, that you know are very small runways that may not be able to take something as big as a 747. So obviously you're not going to use that in the challenge. They'll give you the plane and say, here, go here. And I think even some of the landing challenges also deal with the mechanics of the plane though too, as it relates to whether the plane is actually going to suffer some sort of, I guess, mechanical issue as you are working your way, you know, to said runway. Again, let's get back over here though to over here to JFK. So there's LaGuardia on the left. And yeah. So again, because I'm playing here in easy mode, again, I just wanted to make this as simple as possible. I'm nowhere near kind of really stepping up because I'm still just kind of getting used to everything. Key thing is that in easy mode, you actually do have a lot of guides to help you get from on the ground up into the sky and then back down. One of these here, of course, didn't see because I was already in the air when I started recording, was there actually was guides on the taxiway to get me from there to the runway to go ahead and get to the right spot to take off. You can see over here in the red, these are the guides that I'll be flying through to get myself into a position to land on the runway back over at JFK. Now, you know, for anybody who's actually an experienced pilot or wants the challenge, obviously you'll turn things like this off. But for anybody who's learning, it is really neat to at least have those guides to help you sort of figure out what elevation you need to be at, what speed you need to be at, what location you need to be in to be able to successfully land at an airport. And again, for me, as being this part of my bucket list, there are certain things that I that I don't understand about planes myself anyway, so seeing things like this actually helps to kind of develop some of those soft skills as they relate to flying planes. But again, if you're one of those who's crazy enough to really go try to fly without any sort of help or anything, by all means, you just go turn off that mode and you just get right to it. We'll back the throttle down a little bit. I'm sitting about probably 75% now here on the throttle control, and I'll have links to this, and I'll also have links to my computer specs in the description of the video too. So if you're curious what I'm running to be able to run like this, then you will at least have that information. Just a brief overview, at least of the PC specs. I'm running a Ryzen 7 2700X. It is at stock frequency. I'm also running a Sapphire Radeon RX 5700 XT graphics card, so that's 8 gigs of VRAM on that machine, and then of course 32 gigs of DDR4 3000 megahertz RAM. Again, I'll put all the specs in there. I just figured I'd at least bring it up now, but I'm running with this, and again, even with those specs, and of course a lot of people saying, oh, this is the new Crysis to benchmark with, this is what's replacing it, kind of in the joke part mostly. Honestly, you don't need the crazy high frame rates to play something like this either. 60 frames per second, that's pretty cool. But if you can get yourself to a nice, between 30 and 50 frames per second while playing this, you'll have an okay time. Plus, like any PC game anyway, it usually detects what your hardware's like and then will set your graphics settings based on what your hardware is doing. And then you're okay. I really do like this game, and I really do like the actual view of things. I've not done a nighttime flight, and I didn't want to do a nighttime flight anywhere that I wasn't necessarily familiar with. I wanted to be sure that I could go someplace that was nighttime and I guess unfamiliar, but at the same time was very lit up. And the first thing that came to my mind was the most populous city in the United States, which, look at all those houses. Look at all those apartment buildings. I don't even know what part of New York we're actually in right now. So I'm going to go ahead and turn us in here a little bit. Okay, so I see all that there. I can't really, just fine-tune this without actually using the mouse, and I actually want to fly here. Where am I going here? Oh, this is not good. Okay. Well, you know what? We're just going to wing it. Plain joke. Wing it. I probably just lost all of our subscribers there with that joke, so I will just... screw it. If you're all gone, you're all gone. That's what I'm doing. So we're just going to go ahead and ignore the guides then for now, because it looks like maybe those guides could have been specifically for maybe taking off, or is it having me actually do a loop through the guides to get in there? Anyway, we'll... the plane will get down one way or another. If I have to do a Miracle on the Hudson type situation with a Cessna 172, then god damn it, I will do it. I will make it happen. Nah, what am I talking about? I don't have that type of skill to do anything like that. Okay. Oh, what I remember from at least doing some of the training is obviously you want to bleed speed before you come in. Da-da-da-da-da. Okay, so I know I'm not directly lined up with the runway here, but the fact that I'm in a very tiny plane, if this was something like, you know, a 747 or an Airbus or something, obviously, of course, this is not really the way to land. You know, you bring a plane like this in too quick or anything else, you're going to have a very bad day. Huh, interesting. So I don't know if that was supposed to be like a turn thing where it's like you come in here and then you turn or what, but I don't know. 500. Oh, can I actually look down really quick to turn on the landing lights? Probably not. Okay. That's fine. Huh. Okay, so there's runway. Again, maybe the cleanest. Or maybe it will be. Haha! Who knows? I just heard a jet coming by. And... hey! Look at that. Turn that down. Oh! Oh! Whoa, slewing. Nope. And we're off the runway. Okay. Well... I mean, we landed, right? I'm spamming the brake button. And hey, look at that. When we flip around, we went right back onto the taxiway. Oh, let's go that way. Hey, cool, we landed. I guess. Fine. There, I set the heading. There. Woo, okay. This plane is just like, nope, you're gonna just do what we tell you. I really don't think the actual speed going through the airport here, through all this, is going to be the actual issue. Without crashing. No. I'm gonna crash. Okay, well, here we go. And... boop. Nailed it. All right. No. I don't know where you're going. I turned you all off. Off. Okay. Well, we're going to call that done. We're going to call that a successful landing. All right. So let's go ahead and hop out of here and take a look at the rest of this. All right. Now, of course, that we had that very successful landing, and we are the epitome of every pilot out there whatsoever. Let's kind of talk about exactly what you can actually do here in the main menu itself to get you ready for playing. So not only can you go here and just do the free flight like we did here to set up where you want to fly from, but if we zoom out here, every single one of these dots is some type of airport. So if you wanted to take off somewhere else here in the United States, by all means, you have all these options available to you. You want to go farther south here into South America? Go for it. I don't know if we have anything out here in Antarctica, but hey, guess what? You could probably fly down there if you really wanted to. Although I don't know exactly how the mapping is going to be. You want someplace a little bit nicer to go, possibly? Well, let's zoom in here into Tokyo. And if you wanted to fly into Narita or into any of the other... airports here nearby, especially like, you know, into Haneda or, again, Narita. There's options there too. So let's take a look here at the planes, though, we can pick. So all these planes are unlocked as soon as you get the game. None of these require you to actually go through any different challenges or situations that require you to actually unlock them, which is great. So that means you get a nice little variety to play with. All right, so out of the turboprops, of course, we've got a couple. We got a Beechcraft Cessna and a TBM. Out of the airliners, we have the Boeing 747-8 Intercontinental and the Airbus A320. Of course, if you actually look, like say if I select the Boeing here as an example, we can actually see all of its different stats about it's how high it can actually go up, how long it can go for on full tank. And then, of course, if you look, as soon as I select this Airbus over here, you can see that its speed is lower, its altitude, of course, its max altitude is much lower, and so on. So as you select planes, obviously, if I go back, say, to like the Cessna 172 that I was flying, you know, let's see, grab the scroll bar here and do that. It's yeah, Cessna 172 Skyhawk, the G1000 right here. You can see that obviously it's definitely much worse in regards to how long it can go, how high up it can go, how fast it can go, but obviously very different planes. You're not going to fly this over to the United Kingdom from New York City, unless you really wanted to try. But at least a couple options for folks to be able to play around in. You don't have to feel like you're intimidated by any of these planes whatsoever, though, too. Like I said, playing on easy mode really helps to actually make the game, you know, that much more fun and not as, you know, not with a very steep learning curve. So, yeah, so there's the plane selection. Over here in the flight conditions, of course, you can set up everything else that you need to about the game, whether you are playing with multiplayer, with live players, of course, that will appear in the same airspace that you're in as if they're flying there. Air traffic, this is going to be live traffic, specifically what is actually flying around in the air. And then, of course, weather and time, like we were just flying around there in New York City. That, of course, was live weather and yeah, so like if it was the middle of the day, of course, and it was raining in New York City and you had this selected, then obviously you'd be flying through rain. But you can, of course, set the weather to anything that you want to as well. So if you really want to work on flying through some of the different weather situations, you have that available. Okay, let's go back here a little bit. All right, so if we go back into the plane section here, there are a couple other things that we could also change around on too. Let's see. So weight and balance, of course, offers you the ability to make different changes to the entirety of the plane. Like, say, if this was actually a test sample from Boeing to fly around and actually get people trained up on, most of the time it usually wouldn't have seats in it. So there's a lot of things here that can be changed, of course, for weights and payloads to be able to kind of simulate some of that if you wanted to go that far. In failures, you could actually set it up so that way you're up in the air and flying, and you could say, okay, here at this point in time, we're going to have the oil system in engine 1 fail and on, and it's going to fail in 20 minutes from flying. So definitely a little neat thing there. And then, of course, in ATC options, you can also set your little custom stuff. So you want your tail number to be something different, you want your call sign to be something different, you want your flight number to be something different. You can always assign all those different things too. And of course, when you're dealing with air traffic control, they're going to call you by your tail number. Neat little thing there to be able to at least set up something that is a little personalized and kind of hear it come back to you. So here is the current live event, at least in regards to the landing challenge. This is one of those airports that, again, is tucked away here in the mountains, and you have to land on this very, very small strip of runway. So yeah, it looks like the event itself is for 2 weeks, and based on how well you actually land, if we look over here at the scoreboard on the left, you actually could end up on the leaderboard, which would be kind of cool, right? So that means that probably by the beginning of this next week, we will see a new challenge up here of some type. Then, of course, if you're one of those who actually wants to go through and do flight training, like I was talking about as we were flying over New York City, you have all the options here of being able to actually learn how to do that. I'm all the way through training number 3 here, just because I enjoy more of the free flight to kind of figure it out as I go. But going through all of these, at least, is kind of a condensed TLDR version of what you'd actually learn if you went to flight school, which I priced it. It's about $8,000 for everything that we need to do, especially here in Wyoming. But a lot to really absorb and take in, and it doesn't require you to go from here to here to here or anything else. If you want to play this game without anybody really holding you back, and you just want to go and do it, and you want to play with friends, you can do that. That is an option for you. You want to make a formation out of like 10 747s, by all means, you could do that. Get your friends together, find some other people that are playing, and make that happen. But you are not limited by your inexperience with planes. You just go and set it to easy mode, and you can just do exactly what you want. So, as we talked about, of course, with the different versions of... oh my gosh, excuse me, I'm all flustered today. What we talked about here with a bunch of the different versions of Flight Simulator that are available, there also come with it different things, of course. So as we saw here, actually, in, I think it was this one here. So in the Premium Deluxe upgrade, which goes for $85, it not only adds in 10 additional aircraft, but also adds 10 handcrafted international airports. So in the Deluxe version, you're getting Amsterdam, Cairo, Cape Town, Denver, Dubai, Frankfurt, Heathrow, and so on. And all of the other... Oh, excuse me. All of the other... or the next version up, of course, will unlock all of these higher quality airports as well, though, too, or at least, you know, higher detailed airports. But you don't have to buy it if you don't want to. It sounds like what's going to be happening here, actually, like very soon, is going to be a support from modders to actually add in some additional planes and add in some additional items as well, though, too, as things go on. Because if anybody played the previous version of Flight Simulator, you could have, you know, a space shuttle in there if you wanted to. Of course, it was just a goof around with anyway, but it's something there at least that, you know, that hopefully as things go on, we'll actually see more and more custom created content in here. Like for me, I would not mind seeing an F-14 Tomcat with a paint job similar to the any of the Veritech fighters from Robotech, you know, and fly one of those around. Doesn't mean it's going to transform, but to actually fly around in an F-14 would actually be pretty cool. But again, here at some point in time, we're actually going to be seeing more support from third parties to add in additional planes, add in additional airports, add in different upgrades to things here, though, too, because the modding community behind Flight Simulator actually is pretty big. But that's everything I think I can talk about here on Flight Simulator. Again, I am going to put all the links in into the description of the different items that I'm using to actually play this game and how my computer is set up to play this game too. So take a look in the description for those. Don't forget, if you are a member of Xbox Game Pass, that you can pick this up on the Game Pass beta for PC and install this and go. It is a 100 gig install, and I will preface this by saying I have it installed on an SSD for a little bit of a better experience, more so in rendering and such, but that's just me. I hear spinny drives, your regular hard disks are going to be, could be okay. Depends, of course, on the type of hard disk that you have. But anyway, all of the equipment that I'm using to be able to actually play this game will be in the description of the video. Thank you so much for checking out this once over. We will catch you all in the next video.